So, as you may have noticed, Kingdom Hearts has finally come to PC, and its Twitter has brought to my attention. It seems that the 1.5, 2.5, and presumably 2.8 remix stores its save files in a PNG image file. And as my friend Never Better pointed out, I figured out how to port my save in about 10 minutes, on day one. So here's how I managed to port my save from nearly every console on day one.
Ай, сука.
This one's for you. Now this is almost definitely not the best way to do it, and maybe not how you should do it. The point of this video is to show you how I figured it out, and to give you a slightly better understanding of the inner workings of how the saves are stored. I'm also going to show you how you can decrypt your saves, because your saves need to be decrypted, even if you don't use my method. If your saves are not decrypted, this probably won't work. So to get started, you're going to need two things. First thing you're going to need is a Hex Editor. I recommend using HXD, but you can use whatever you want. If you prefer Hex Workshop or anything like that, go for it. If you don't know what a Hex Editor is, you can think of it as basically a specialized text editor. The second thing you'll need is a decrypted save file. It doesn't matter where you get it from, whether you download it or get it from your own console. If you already have a save you'd like to use either on a console or from an emulator, I'll be showing you how to copy them over and how to decrypt them. So to get started, I already took the time to create saves for all my games, so I have something to inject to. I just started up each game and got to the first available save point to make two saves. It is possible to create saves in slots that don't exist yet, and I'll show you that later, but I recommend making things easy and just saving over as many slots as you want to inject. We'll be starting with Birth by Sleep. Here you can see me opening up one PSP save and one PS3 save, followed by the Birth by Sleep PNG save file. If we tab over to the PSP save, we can see that the first four characters in the decoded text are BBSD. I'll be referring to these first four bytes as the header. The header can tell us what game the save is attached to, as well as confirm that the save is decrypted. If we tab over to the PS3 save, we can see the header is the same and both saves are compatible. If you have a decrypted PS4 save, it should work just fine. Tab over to the PC save. The first step is to find where we need to inject our save into the file. The way we do that is by opening up the Find dialog with Ctrl F and go to the Hex Values tab. We're using hex values because it's more reliable to search with, since not all headers use text characters. In the search box, you're going to paste the header we found in the original save file. In the case of Birth by Sleep, it's 42, 42, 53, 44. Afterwards, we're going to click Search All to show us all the save slots that exist, rather than just the first result. Once we've searched for our header and have results, we know the offsets of our saves. If you don't know what that means, an offset is just how far away from the start of the file in bytes you are. Now that we have our offsets, we can tab back to our original save, click the left side with all the numbers and letters, select everything with Ctrl A, and then copy them to our clipboard. Once we have everything copied, we can tab back to our PC save. Now put your cursor at the header location we found before like so. You can nudge with the arrow keys if you misclick. Once your cursor is in place, we can right-click and select Paste Right. The difference between Paste Right and Paste Insert is Paste Right just overwrites what's already there. Paste Insert would change the length of our file and mess with our offsets. We don't want that. After Paste Right is done, you should see a bunch of red text. Red text in this case means unsaved changes, and that's a good thing. That means you've successfully written to the file. If you're only injecting one save, you can save the file and stop here. But I'll be injecting my PS3 save as well as my PSP save. If you have more than one save, you can double-click the search result to be brought to the offset you want to inject to. Save slot 1 was offset 86D0. Save slot 2's offset is 2FED0. If you can do math in hex, any saves afterwards is the same distance apart. But if you can't do hex math, searching for headers will get you pretty far. I'll spare you the loading screens, but now if we open our game, we can see I'm no longer at the summit. My time and money have changed, and I'm a completely different character. The injection was a success. Now that we have the basics down, I'll speed through the rest of the injections and mention if there's anything different or any problems you might run into. Here you can see me opening up PS2 Saves in my Hex Editor. The process is nearly identical. The PS2 and PS3 saves start with KH2J or 4B, 48, 32, 4A. Searching all with the header gives me two results. Those are my save slots. Slot 1 is offset 19690, and slot 2 is offset 2A650. Control A to select all, Control C to copy, Control B to paste right, Control S to save. You can use keyboard commands or the right-click menu, whatever you're more comfortable with. Loading up our game, you can see I'm no longer at the Station Awakening. The injection was a success. Chain of Memories is nearly the same process, but it has two problems you need to be aware of. Firstly, Chain of Memories doesn't have a nice 4-letter header like KH2 or Birth by Sleep. It still has a 4-byte header you can still search for, but they aren't letters and are likely to appear elsewhere in the file. This means we'll have to use a few context clues about our save file's offsets. The second thing you need to be aware of is that the PS3 version isn't compatible. If we check the PS2 version, we can see it has a header of 07000000. If we look at the PS3 version, even though it is decrypted properly, it has a header of 00000007. It's backwards. And it's not just the header. It seems like the PS3 version stores all its values in the wrong byte order. If you'd like to know more, Google endianness. Long story short, unless we have a map of the entire save file, we can't just flip those bytes back. This issue exists only in the PS3 version and was fixed in the PS4 port. I don't have a PS4 save file decrypted, so I'll just be injecting my PS2 save twice. Searching for our header file, I know that I only have 2 save slots, but we can see that we have way more results than that. This is because, as I mentioned earlier, Chain of Memories doesn't have a nice header and is likely to show up elsewhere in the file. Not all hope is lost though. We can get a good idea of which results are our save files by using context clues. Looking at our PS2 save, we can see the header is followed by a few random characters, a 6, a few empty lines, and then a solid line of characters. Tapping back to our PC save, we can see the header that we're looking for, followed by a 6, a few empty lines of space, and then a line of characters. It's not exactly the same, but it's really close and gives you a good indication that it's the right offset. At first glance it may seem kind of hard to understand, but it mostly boils down to pattern recognition. You get used to it.
You get used to it? I don't even see the code. All I see is blonde, brunette, redhead.
If you don't understand, I can just tell you that save slot 1 is offset 86D0, and save slot 2 is offset FB30, and so on. Now if we load up our save, we can see I have 2 identical saves, and now I'm in Riku's story instead of Sora's at the end of the game. The injection was a success. So moving on to KH1, we can see that like Chain of Memories it doesn't have a nice 4-letter header. Its header is 05000000 and is likely to show up elsewhere in the file. However, we can see that our header is followed by alternating lines of Ds and empty spaces. This one isn't as bad as Chain of Memory, it only brings up 2 false results. Using the patterns of Ds and empty spaces, we can see that save slot 1 is 10D30 and save slot 2 is 3E5B0. Now if we load up our game at first glance, it's going to look like it didn't work, but I promise you it did. Loading up save slot 1, you can see that I'm no longer at Station Awakening and I'm level 6. The load screen is misleading, but we can fix that. We can update the saves text by loading our save and saving over it. That will update our time and stats. Save over your injected files, and you've successfully injected your saves. So as I mentioned earlier, you can't really inject a save into a save slot that isn't already there. You can put the data there and load up the game, but the save slot won't show up. Now the easy way to get around this is just to make more save slots in-game before injecting, and that's probably how you should do it. But if you'd rather do it manually, here's roughly how to do it. I'll start by injecting a save into a slot that doesn't exist yet. KH2 is nice, because its saves fit back to back perfectly without any empty space. To make my life easy, I'll just overwrite slot 2 and paste twice. Now if we save and reload our file, we can see that we have 3 instances of our header. Loading the game up now wouldn't do anything. We need to make another tweak towards the top of our PC save. We can see shortly after the start of the file in the credits, there was a string with our game ID, followed by 2 numbers. This basically tells the game to look for a save in that slot number, as well as some extra information that honestly doesn't seem to do anything. So what we can do, we can copy the first game ID string and its empty space all the way up to the second save slot number. Then I'll go to the start of the second save ID and paste twice. This will overwrite the second save slot and create a third one at the correct offset. You could also just manually go to that offset and paste, but I was lazy, and this is a sloppy thing to do anyways. Probably just create your save slots in-game. Now before we save our file and load up the game, we need to update the save IDs we just overrode. KH2 save slots go from 00 to 01, 02, etc. Shadow Memories and Birth by Sleep start with SYS, then jumps to 02, then 03, and so on. KH1 is a little weird and seems to have a series of game ID slots followed by system.bin files. It's janky, but if we save the file and load up our game, we can see we have 3 save slots, one of which didn't exist when we started.
Yeah, ha! It's over!
Now for the fun part. Save decryption. If you're anything like me, you may have been playing Kingdom Hearts since the original releases on the PS2 hardware. This won't work with the original non-final mix saves. This kind of assumes you've been playing with either an imported disc and console, or you've been playing using Homebrew. If you're copying your save from original hardware, you'll need a USB, access to Homebrew, and in this case, ULaunch ELF. If you don't have access to Homebrew, I recommend looking into a program called Free DVD Boot, but you can also get away with using a backwards compatible PS3 if you prefer. I'll show you that process in a moment. Once you load up ULaunch ELF and press any button to continue, you'll be greeted with a file select screen. For your reference, MC0 is memory card slot 1, MC1 is memory card slot 2, and mass is your USB drive. Once you select your memory card, you'll be greeted by a list of folders. Those are your saves. You can tell which save is which roughly by its ID, and the number at the end corresponds to a save slot in-game. You can mark your save for copying by pressing X. You know you have it selected if the icon has a little glowing dot next to it. Afterwards, you can open the copy dialog by pressing R2, then circle to confirm. After you have your saves copied, you need to navigate to your USB, press R2 again, then circle to paste your files onto your USB. Your save files were never encrypted in the first place, so once that's done, you've successfully copied your saves from hardware and can turn off your PS2. If you don't have access to Homebrew on the PS2, and you used a memory card adapter to import your saves, or if you've just been playing on a backwards compatible PS3, your saves are stored in a virtual memory card. To access them, go to the game section of the PlayStation home screen, select the memory card utility, select your memory card, and press triangle on any saves you want to copy. Copy them to a plugged-in USB. This will give you a PSV file. Your PSV file isn't encrypted, but will need another program to extract your saves on PC. Once you have your PSV file, you can turn off your PS3, plug your USB into your PC. From there, your PSV file is stored on your USB in a folder called PS3 Export PSV. To unpack your save, we'll be using a program aptly called PSV Exporter. Click and drag your PSV file onto PSV Exporter. This will open a window and show you your save files. You can ignore the .ico file and the .sys. All you need is the file with your game ID and your save slot number. Right-click and select either Extract File or Extract All. Save your file wherever you'd like. I just threw mine on the desktop. Files output from PSV Exporter are unencrypted and ready for use. If you've been playing on emulator, it's a piece of cake to prepare your save. Open up PCSX2 and go to Config, Memory Cards. A window should pop up with your memory cards all in a list. If you haven't renamed or created a custom memory card, MCD001 is memory card slot 1, and MCD002 is memory card slot 2. To extract your save from the emulator, right-click your memory card and select Convert Card. This should bring up a window where you can name the newly converted memory cards. This will create a copy of your memory card and extract its contents to a folder. Give it a name or stick with the default, then click Convert. The computer will then think for a minute or two while it converts your saves. If you'd like to use this folder as a memory card in the emulator for future games, it will automatically convert any new saves to the folder. Handy! After it's done converting, you can press the Open and Explore button and your saves will be in the newly created folder. Your saves are now ready for use. If you've been playing Birth by Sleep on the PSP, the process to get your saves onto PC is pretty trivial. However, you will need to take the time to decrypt your save. We'll be using PPSSPP to decrypt our saves. It was the easiest way I could find that didn't require a modded system or a game key for decryption, but you will need to have a dump of your game. This applies to if you've been playing on either hardware or the PPSSPP emulator. If you're already playing on emulator, you can skip ahead a little bit. If you've been playing on hardware, you'll want to connect your PSP to your PC using a USB cable. Navigate to Settings and select USB connection. This should bring up USB mode, and your system files should be visible on your PC. You'll want to navigate to PSP Save Data. There you'll find a series of folders. Those are your saves. Each folder has the game ID of the game it's attached to. In this case, Birth by Sleep is a folder named ULJM05775, followed by its save slot number. For reference, if we open our save in a Hex Editor, we can tell our save is encrypted because it looks like a solid block of gibberish. When we're done, it still may look like gibberish, but you can tell your save is decrypted if there's a lot more empty space and the file starts with the letters BBSD. From here, copy your save folder into your PPSSPP save folder. By default, that's Documents, PPSSPP, PSP, Save Data. You can now disconnect and turn off your PSP. Next, we'll have to go into PPSSPP's settings file to disable save encryption. Go to Documents, PPSSPP, PSP System, and open up the PPSSPP.ini file in your favorite text editor. Search for the line that says encrypt save equals true. Change the word true to false and save the file. Now we can load up our game, save over it, and replace it with a decrypted copy. And voila! Now if we check our save file again in a Hex Editor, we can see it's decrypted and starts with the letters BBSD. Our save is now ready for use. If you've been playing on PS3, you can go to the game section of the PS3 home screen, Save Data Utility, and press triangle on the save you'd like to copy. After your save is copied to your USB, you can turn off your PS3 and plug your USB into your PC. Now comes the hard part. Your save is still encrypted and needs to be decrypted. Your encrypted save is stored on your USB in the PS3 Save Data folder. These folders are your saves. Each folder is named after its game ID. I recommend copying your saves off the USB because we'll be modifying them and it'll be nice to have a backup just in case. We'll be using a program called Bruteforce Save Data. Open Bruteforce Save Data and close the Update Sheets window. I won't be using it. If you're using a fresh install like me, you can just close the Global Settings window. When it asks you to configure a template, select Yes. You'll want to navigate to your encrypted save folder and open its param.sfo file. This basically gives it all the information it needs about your user and how to decrypt your save. In this example, I'll be using a KH2 save. When asked for a name, name it anything you want. I opted for the unfriendly name. Next, click the three dots in the upper right and browse to the folder with your saves. All your saves should pop up in the list. Click the save you want to convert, and click the big blue Rebuild button. Select Rebuild Full, and say yes when asked if you want to update the profile. Next, click the Verify PFD button. If everything went well, you should see a bunch of blue text that says OK. If you see red text, that means something went wrong, and you may need to brute force a key using a decrypted eboot.bin. That's out of the scope of this tutorial. PS3 encryption kinda sucks. Sorry. Once everything is hunky-dory, you can select your save in the window in the bottom left. Your save is the one labeled USR, followed by the save slot. Right-click your desired save and click Decrypt PFD. When it asks if you'd like to decrypt it, say yes. From here you can click on the newly decrypted file and press F2 to open it in File Explorer. For reference, I decrypted my slot 10 save. Opening slot 9, which hasn't been decrypted, in a Hex Editor, we can see our save looks like a solid block of gibberish. If you open my slot 10 save in a Hex Editor, we see the file has a bunch of empty space, and in the case of KH2, it starts with the characters KH2J. Our save is now finally ready for use. Lastly, if you're playing on the PS3 emulator RPCS3, your saves are already decrypted. Your saves are stored in the RPCS3 folder, dev_hdd0, home 0000001 save data. These folders are your saves. Each folder corresponds to a game ID. Your saves are ready for use. Now, there are two consoles I'm purposely leaving out. If you're playing on PS4, copying your saves to PC is pretty similar to how it's done on PS3. However, PS4 does not have a brute force save data yet. The closest equivalent is a paid program by the name of PS4 Save Wizard. A Save Wizard license costs $50, so unless you feel like shelling out for a license or have a PS4 with a low enough firmware for Homebrew, your save is stuck encrypted. I have neither of those things, so this limitation applies to 0.2, KH3, and the PS4 version of Dream Drop Distance and Melody of Memories. As far as I can tell, similar limitations apply to the Xbox ports. If anyone has a Save Wizard license they'd be willing to share, I'd be happy to revisit this. But for now, that's just about every version of Kingdom Hearts 1.5, 2.5 that you'd possibly want to port. Now say it with me, we never need to replay any Kingdom Hearts games ever again.